Welcome to Showbiz Fix Uncut, sponsored by Sun Bingo, where we unpack the biggest entertainment stories with the journalists that know all the juicy details. I'm Felicity Cross, The Sun's deputy TV editor, and today we're talking about the surprising number of cancelled celebrities who return with a lifestyle show. From Holly Willoughby to Meghan Markle, stars seem to think that coming back with chit-chat, cooking and clothes is the perfect way to get back into the public's good graces. But is that actually the case? To help me answer these questions and more, I'm joined by The Sun's TV editor, Rod McPhee.
Hi, how you doing?
Roddy, we're often in this room talking about drama and scandal and breakups, but lifestyle shows are the exact opposite of that, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're a nice, gentle doorway into another world, if you like, or into the world which you would like to inhabit. And basically, they're a different form of escapism. You know, there's no drama or scandal there, but it's kind of oh, look, here's another life you could be leading, and you could be just like me. I think that's the whole reason why celebrities tend to do well in this sort of arena as well.
Yeah, and obviously that's probably why they've been there since the dawn of television. It's a nice little daytime hug and a mug, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning of lifestyle shows. This was sort of the era of Martha Stewart, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what you found in the very early days, sort of in the 60s and the 70s, was that you'd have shows that did things like cookery or, you know, needlework, or, you know, there might even be like kind of true crime, true life stories. But no one really brought them all together quite until I would say the 1980s. I mean, when you had shows like This Morning, which kicked off in 1988. So the lifestyle show as we know it now isn't quite as old as we think. You know, the individual shows have always been there, but they're bringing them together into a single show like This Morning. That's relatively new, which is probably quite a surprise to most people, right?
And it feels like at the beginning, the show was more important than the face, but that has now flipped, and it feels like it's names, surnames, morning brief. It's, you know, the name is the important hook. Why do you think that is?
I think that it's two reasons. One is I think the novelty of these kind of shows have worn off. So you need an extra dimension. It's not enough anymore to have a lifestyle show. It has to be a lifestyle show fronted by person X and person Y. That's incredibly important. But also, just celebrity culture is just so much bigger now than it was 40 years ago when all this really took off. So you need those two elements now. And I'm not always sure if it means that you get a better lifestyle show just because you've got a bigger name.
No, I don't think so. And also I think when it's all about the name, it requires the audience to like that person, which is why it's so interesting that lifestyle shows have become this comeback vehicle for these celebrities who aren't in the public's good books. I mean, we're talking about Holly Willoughby.
Yeah. Cut to the chase.
Let's address the elephant in the room, because, of course, she's back this week with her brand new lifestyle show. Let's start at the beginning for her. So she has really worked her way up the TV ladder, hasn't she? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so obviously she started off in kids TV and Saturday morning kids TV, and then she worked her way up through various things. And it was really getting her big break on This Morning that's got her to where she is today. But it wasn't just This Morning. She had other shows on the BBC, other shows on ITV. Remember, she did I'm a Celebrity one year, and she really excelled in that. I think that also took her to the next level. But I also think that by the time she'd finished on This Morning, she was already in that sort of top tier of telly people.
Yeah. What was it about Holly on This Morning that was just the perfect fit?
I mean, it's a terrible cliche, but it's three words: girl next door. She was the girl next door. She was, yes, she was a pro. She was very good on live television, but also she wasn't entirely polished. She didn't seem to take herself too seriously. She could laugh at herself. She could see the humor in so many things that she did on the screen. She was someone who people felt, you know, this goes back to the absolute root of lifestyle TV. People could almost see themselves being Holly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, is that Holly wasn't too far removed from them.
Yeah. Holly definitely had a bourbon biscuit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she you know she would have a second bourbon biscuit. You know.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, but you know what I mean. She wasn't a goody two shoes. You know, you see a lot of people on TV. They're all polished. They're super skinny. They're super perfect. You know, and she wasn't that.
Yeah.
Although towards the end, I think she did become a little bit more like that. Dare I say?
Yeah. Well, exactly. This is where it all began to unravel a little bit. So, after 14 years on This Morning, it was 2023, where amid a horrific criminal case in her family life, Holly took the decision to leave This Morning and took some time out.
Yeah.
And everyone wondered, what is Holly going to do next?
Absolutely. And I think at that point, people thought, actually, this might be a good point for her to sort of explore the fact that she was in this top tier of TV presenters now. So maybe she'll be inundated with offers. I think she did get quite a lot of offers and she turned a lot down. And then she tried to move into different areas, which I understand. And then when she came along and did Netflix's Bear Hunt, I think she saw that as the big leap.
Well, this is what I find fascinating, right? So we're saying that she was inundated with offers, but she ended up settling on, and I say settling on because that's to me what it felt like.
Yeah.
A revival of You Bet, which was very safe. Saturday night, read the autocue, bit of banter with Stephen. That felt like something to keep things warm with ITV, but you know, it's a tick box. Then she chose Celebrity Bear Hunt, which probably felt like an exciting change.
Yeah, a good idea at the time, I think we'd say.
I'm wincing as I say this because we both know Celeb Bear Hunt just didn't land, did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't get the audience. It didn't create the buzz. And it couldn't justify itself because it cost millions to make. And also for Holly, and I did feel sorry for her because she went out into Costa Rica with Bear Grylls, and then the amount of time she actually got on our screens was minuscule compared to him. I mean, we're laughing about it because it's funny, but really, I felt so sorry for her in the end. And then when the show didn't make it to a second series, it just felt like, you know, salt in the wound, really. But I think that I think what Holly did, and this was her mistake, and we've talked about this before, is it's a case of, in a career, you want it to be like a staircase. You put one foot on one step, and then when you move up, you put your other foot on the other step, but you don't take it off until you're ready to go to the next step. Mm-hmm. What she was doing, it was like jumping from little icebergs to another. She took one great big leap from this to that, and it didn't work out. Because going from daytime TV to just primetime TV and then to a streamer, big risk.
Yeah. And it didn't pan out.
No, it didn't pan out. And I think a bit of that was bad luck. I think she didn't make great choices. I think she had a little bit of bad luck because lots and lots of people choose bad shows, but she just happened to choose one or two at the same time.
Can I make a cynical suggestion, which is maybe the public just didn't really like Holly anymore?
Oh, shots have been fired. Yes. I mean, I think there's something in that. I think people... there is a bit of tall poppy syndrome here. I think that in the beginning, Holly was basically a little known girl next door. And then by the end, she was a very well-known, very popular and polished person. I think that was the thing. I think we like someone who's a little bit, dare I say, rough around the edges. And by the end, she was just too polished. She was too much of a professional TV presenter. And they're not as easy to like.
No. But why is it always women that have that problem?
I think it's because we focus a great deal on female celebrities on their appearance. And the trouble is that I can understand this, is that women feel perhaps more pressure to look a certain way, and then they go down a certain road, and then they start to look less like the person that we liked in the first place.
Yeah.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
You know, they're criticised if they don't listen to the criticism, and they criticised if they do.
The reason I bring that up is because I think it's very interesting that, therefore, for her comeback, she's chosen a very similar vehicle where, again, it's going to be all about who she is as a person and what she looks like. So we're talking about Together, which launches this week, and you have spoken with Holly about this, and you've also watched the episode, crucially. What's it like?
It's like this morning, basically. But it's not just this morning. It's set inside what looks like a little apartment, a little pied-à-terre in London, but it's actually built inside it's purpose built inside a studio.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a kitchen. There's like a little lounge area. And in this space, she brings in guests. And her first guest is Stanley Tucci from The Devil Wears Prada. But obviously, he's also a big foodie, so they cook. And it's very much a bit like, dare I say, the days when she used to be with Gino D'Acampo behind the stove.
Mm-hmm.
And they're making kind of saucy gags. They're sort of telling little anecdotes about each other, They're clearly pals. And what this is, it's much more personal than This Morning. You hear more about her. It's more about her and her husband who's producing the show. You actually see her husband on the set. You hear him talking. So it's kind of strange, but also nicely different. I think the trouble is whether it's actually going to translate from being this sort of daytime TV spin-off to a YouTube property. I just don't know if it's going to work or not.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to that. But what I find really interesting about this direction that Holly's gone in is to almost try and win the public back over. She's putting more of herself into it from the sounds of it.
Yes,
so Holly thinks that her biggest strength is her.
Very true. And I think she might be right, but it's a gamble. It's always a gamble, because if you're going to put everything on you, all the pressure's on you. You have to deliver. You can't say, oh, it was the show. Oh, it was the production. Oh, maybe next time we choose different things to cover. It's all about you.
Yeah.
She's great. I have to say, she is really good in it. And you get a reminder of why she was so good on This Morning. But whether or not that's going to be enough, particularly in this day and age, I just don't know.
Yeah. So when you were at the press launch with Holly, obviously she was talking about her idea for launching this on YouTube is because there was a completely new audience there, because she knows this from her family viewing habits. But are the kind of people who are viewing on YouTube wanting a lifestyle show?
You have to go back and look at lifestyle shows when they started and hit their real peak in the 80s and the 90s. Because back then, people were incredibly aspirational. People could afford in their 20s and their 30s to buy houses, and they'd get these lovely houses, and they wanted the lifestyle. They wanted to cook. They wanted to have a walk-in closet full of lovely clothes. That they wanted to, have a nice big dressing table in their big bedroom where they can do their makeup and all these sorts of things. And that is what lifestyle is all about. These days, the people that watch YouTube, your 20-somethings, don't stand a cat in hell's chance of buying a house. They're probably still living at home with their mum and dad. They can't be doing all these lifestyle things in their parents' house.
But that said, there are people who are absolutely massive by kind of doing similar things, like Mrs. Hinch.
Yeah.
Like Stacey Solomon and her tap to tidy. It's the same kind of topic, but maybe it's just not quite the way Holly's delivering it.
That's right. And I think that's the difference, is that what they're doing is quite niche. It's that kind of life hack type of vibe, isn't it? Rather than, like in Holly's first episode of this show, she cooks a pasta dish. And the pasta dish has like 4 or 5 ingredients. It's not really a hack. Even I can make pasta. I'm sure you can make pasta, but you don't need a hack to do this.
No.
Whereas I think the example with Stacey, Stacey's a brilliant example. And she's another example of someone who seems more like us than Holly is now. But no. I think that the age of the lifestyle show has kind of passed now, dare I say. And you can see that on This Morning and indeed on Morning Live. The viewing figures ain't great for them.
Do you think that this will save Holly? Is Holly back?
Wow. $64 million question. Now, I think that she's back. And I think that people will be talking about this an awful lot. But whether or not it saves her, I just don't know. I mean, look, maybe this will be the dawn of a new era. Maybe Holly is the person that's going to get your, 50-plus viewer turning off the TV and opening their laptops to watch YouTube while they're ironing. But as those words are coming out of my mouth, I don't feel like that's going to happen.
You can get YouTube on your telly. With the app.
I did actually know that, believe it or not. I actually did. But I never really do that.
No, well, I know. Well, exactly. And it's fascinating insight into the way that different generations watch telly.
Yeah.
I think, having watched some of Together, we'll all be talking about how Holly is so brilliant at what she does.
Yes.
not necessarily how good the show is.
Agreed. And I think that's a fair summary when you watch the show. You know, the show is relatively mediocre and she brings the sparkle. But there again, look at someone like Nigella Lawson.
Mm-hmm.
What she did was basically a cookery show. She didn't do things that were that much different to Delia Smith or Mary Berry, you know. But of course, she introduced these sort of fruity innuendos and all this sort of florid language and unusual things that she would occasionally throw in. But essentially, it was just a cookery show. Mm-hmm. So lots and lots of people have built careers around that. Mm-hmm. I don't really hold that against her, but I just feel like people are going to think doing a lifestyle show is like picking low-hanging fruit, but that fruit could be rotten.
Okay, so we're going to move on to someone else who tried to pivot into lifestyle TV to save their public image, which is Meghan Markle. Now, I'm not the one making that comparison because the internet has very much got there first. You only need to look at the comments on Holly's promo videos of this, and Meghan's name comes up constantly because obviously she did the same thing with Love Meghan, which was her big Netflix show, which was revolting. It was so sugary sweet, it made my teeth fall out.
Yeah, but what do you really think?
I just thought, is the reality in the room because it's left the building?
It was wild. It was mind-blowingly bonkers. And I think what she did was overplay her hand because basically she tapped into, with the lifestyle thing, the idea that the person watching at home almost wants to be you. And let's face it, in her mind, and lots of people's minds actually, she married a prince. You know, she married a prince from England and then went off to Montecito and lived happily ever after. And she thought, right, everybody wants to be me. I think there genuinely was a bit of that. And there's probably a lot of truth in it. I think a lot of people do want to be her. I wouldn't mind living in Montecito. I don't know about you, but
if I had Meghan's life, I would not be spending my time picking lavender stalks to lovingly tie a bow around to hand to my child over breakfast.
No, and I wouldn't be scattering flowers across absolutely everything, whether it's like edible or not. But that was her thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I also think that the trouble with the Meghan show was that although she was selling this lifestyle of a semi-royal and a huge sort of Hollywood celebrity, some of the stuff that she made, there's one point in which she was sort of making this thing that was basically an omelette. And I was like, well, I used to make that when I was a student at age 20. This is not something to aspire to. This is something I've sort of, drawn a veil over in my youth.
Yeah.
It was a very strange show. I think you'll agree.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny in that it's very difficult because she was doing something which, as we've just described lifestyle shows before, a hug in a mug, but she was trying to bring this aspirational vibe to it. And I don't think the two fit together.
No. And I think that
it was just so out of touch.
Yes, 100%. And you just looked at everything and you went, that cost 20 quid, that cost 40 quid. This meal you've just prepared would cost £200 or something.
Yeah.
And of course, people, especially, your average British family can't afford to do that.
No.
And it's almost too aspirational. No one's looking at that and thinking, oh, one day, it's just too much out of reach.
I look to Selling Sunset and, Real Housewives for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not Meghan Markle.
Yeah, exactly.
Did it do the job that Meghan hoped it did, which is sort of, show the real her, make people love her?
I would say the answer to that is that there is no season 3.
Mm-hmm. But she did get to season 2.
She did, although I strongly suspect that was done as part of a deal because I know that. I mean, let's face it, you would try and push for a 2-season deal, wouldn't you? And I think if anyone's going to get it, especially with the money that Netflix paid them, it would be Meghan. Mm-hmm. But I think it's very telling that she's not got another season. Yeah. And I think that tells you all you need to know, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't seem like she's taken the hint, though. Because this weekend we saw her pop up on MasterChef Australia.
Yeah.
And it went down again like a cup of cold sick.
Yeah. I think everyone's just thinking now, oh, Meghan, give it a rest, love. And I feel like, I think she feels like all she can do now is lifestyle. And I think she's got herself in a bit of a velvet rut here. But I think the overriding thing is people are going to start saying, well, we think that that's all you can do, and you can't even do that. I just think she needs, to be honest, I just think she needs to go back to acting in some way, shape or form. I find it hard to believe she can't do that. But I think that lifestyle, like I said before, is seen as the last resort of people that don't really know what else to do. So the minute she pops up doing it, and bearing in mind she's on MasterChef with some absolute, culinary A-star geniuses, she isn't one of those things. Everybody knows that. So she just looks so out of place. And then the Prince Harry, the Prince Harry video call halfway through the competition. What is that about?
Oh, sorry, my husband's just FaceTiming me.
Is he really?
No, but imagine.
Oh, right. Sorry. I thought you meant your husband was FaceTiming you.
But that's the vibe. Whose husband FaceTimes? Oh, sorry, babes. I'm just on with Roddy. Who does that?
I literally thought we were going to have to stop the podcast there to FaceTime. But no, exactly. It's wild.
We would not stop Showbiz Fix Uncut if my husband rang, because he's the eye candy. I mean, look, let's compare the two shows because everyone else is.
Yeah.
Are they similar, or is it just that they both have some cooking?
They both have some cooking. And look, in that regard, they are quite similar. It speaks volumes that the first episode that Holly has chosen to do is a cookery segment. I think that is the classic go-to for lifestyle, because it's sort of domestic. It's kind of, it's all about the family, et cetera, et cetera. But apart from that, there isn't a lot of comparison.
No.
And I think it's slightly unfair on Holly to compare her to Meghan, because Holly is a pro. She's a really good presenter. She can do live TV. I'd love to see Meghan trying to do what Holly can do.
Yeah. But is it fair to say that they both came into this with the same motivation to sort of re-enter celebrity with a soft, fluffy touch?
Oh, yes, I think so. I think that Holly in particular needed something which was familiar territory. She's gone through an awful lot. She doesn't want to go through any more trauma, if you like. And that might have been what had happened if she'd gone off and suddenly decided to, I don't know, read the 10 o'clock news or, go on I'm a Celebrity. She went back to what she knew. And I kind of don't blame her for that.
Yeah, no, me neither. But I just think when your career depends on your personality being front and center, full chest saying, I am this show, which is what a lifestyle show is.
Yes.
It's a wobbly plank to walk, isn't it?
It is. I think the trouble with the lifestyle show is there are so many different things that you can be on there to talk about. You can be on there to talk about, relationship problems, makeup. You can be on there to talk about interiors. You can be on there to do like a bit of an agony aunt thing. There's so many things that one person couldn't possibly be across all those things. Whereas, just to pluck an example out there, if you're someone like Gary Lineker, he has a great personality, he has charisma, charm, etc., but also he knows football. He has that experience. So every time he opens his mouth to talk about something, he knows what he's talking about and he can deliver it in an engaging way. Holly, in a way, can't ever really do that.
No.
She can only ever be like the kind of the bridge between lots of other people who do know their stuff.
The project manager.
Exactly. But that's why it's a skill. And, it takes a lot of effort to make things look that effortless.
Yeah.
And I admire her in that respect. But no, you're absolutely right. Everything pivots on her personality, and it's a massive gamble.
Especially when you're coming into it with your personality being questioned.
Well, yes, this is, she definitely did come out of the whole This Morning thing with her personality questioned.
Yeah. So do we think that Holly's Together might suffer the same fate as With Love, Meghan?
I think the benefit that she has is that this project won't have cost as much. She can probably let it ride out for a lot longer, because you've got to remember, With Love, Meghan, I think it went out the first episode in March last year, and then there was a second episode later in the year, and then I think the Christmas special. So in a very short space of time, it was all put out there, and then it was very much like, nah, this is over. Whereas I think Holly, she's only doing 2 episodes a week.
Right.
So she can trundle along quite nicely, and maybe she'll build up that YouTube following, who knows? So I think that she will get a greater crack of the whip than Meghan did.
I have a counter here, which is that I don't necessarily think that Holly and Meghan were the problem. It's that people just don't really enjoy that kind of TV show anymore. I mean, if you look at Gwyneth Paltrow, so she is huge in the lifestyle space. She's so established with Goop. People know all about her, let's face it, off the wall theories and products and everything. Yet she couldn't make the Goop Lab, her lifestyle show, work.
No.
And she was coming into that, with a grounding in lifestyle, which Holly and Meghan didn't necessarily. And even she couldn't. What hope does Holly have? Is this genre just not dead?
I think it's not dead, but it might well be terminally ill. I think that at some point, TV execs are going to have to turn off the life support machine. Because at the minute, I think shows like This Morning and Morning Live and similar shows, they have been supported by the fact that they're a legacy offering. These daytime TV shows are something that people have always watched. It's just that they're not watching them in the same numbers anymore.
No.
And at some point, someone's going to have to go, click, it's over. But I think, look, I think they'll trundle along for another 2 or 3 years. But look at Steph's Packed Lunch, which was on Channel 4. That was this very similar format. That was part of Channel 4's big drive to open up their Leeds offering. It was set in Leeds, and they thought, we've got a big star fronting it. This is a familiar format, and I think within 2 or 3 years, it was gone. And that speaks volumes. That sort of show should have run for years and years and years, and it hardly ran for very long at all. Yeah.
The one person who seems to have found a bit of a secret sauce to this is Stanley Tucci, which is interesting that he's coming on Holly's show, because people love his Searching for Italy, and that's a bit of travel, a bit of cooking, a bit of celebrity chat and all that kind of thing. What is it about that show, just as an example, that people like?
I think people like him.
Exactly.
And people like the fact that he knows his stuff. It's that double whammy. I think that's the thing. And people can tell he knows his stuff. If you see all of his shows across all the streamers, you kind of go, yeah, he really knows what he's talking about. And I think that's the secret ingredient. I mean, even when you watch Stacey Solomon, you don't get the feeling that she's blagging it. You don't get the feeling that some producers just chatted something in here, yeah, right, say this now. You get the feeling that she's actually done all this at home, and then she's gone, I'm going to put this on my TV show.
She isn't ChatGPTing how to fix that bench, is she?
No,
she knows.
Exactly. And then we sort of see her doing all these things beforehand and afterwards on her social media. It all ties in beautifully. But no, people like Stanley are brilliant at doing what they do.
So let's come back to Holly. Does Holly know how to do any of these things which are happening on Together? Does she have the likability factor that Stanley has that could make Together a hit?
She does. I think that her strength is also her apparent weakness, which is, oh my goodness me, I don't know how to fry courgettes, or I don't know how to boil pasta. Oh, Stanley, would you show me? It's that kind of thing, It's the sort of slightly helpless damsel in distress kind of thing. And people like that. People still like that. I mean, it doesn't wash as much as it used to, because we all know that Holly hasn't got to where she's got today.
Not being able to fry a courgette.
Exactly. It's ridiculous, really.
That woman knows her way around a courgette.
Yes, she knows how to handle a courgette. But I think she basically... there's a lot of innuendo like that in Together, by the way. So I'm not out of place talking like that.
Nod, wink.
But yeah, no, she knows what she's doing, but she plays up to the damsel in distress thing, and fair play to her. It works. That's what people want from Holly, and she's still brilliant at it.
My last question about this: should Holly not have just found a really good presenting role?
Yes. I 100% agree with you, but I think it speaks volumes that she couldn't find one. There's so many shows around. I mean, heck, we were talking about Strictly Come Dancing. They've just hired 3 presenters. I find it hard to believe Holly couldn't have had one of those, or, I find it hard to believe that execs wouldn't even have just created a show just for her, which makes me deeply suspicious about what happened after This Morning, what went on behind the scenes, because I would have expected, wouldn't you, her to have just sailed on to this glorious career, and it hasn't quite there's been a lot of bumps in the road.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how this pans out.
Yeah.
I'm going to book you 3 months, 6 months time.
Right.
What are we calling it? A year?
Yeah.
To dissect the fall of Together?
Yeah. Not Together, it will be called by then. It's yes. No, yeah, it's not. Look, I think let's talk in a year's time. Let's give a 12 months flick.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. That's your dose of Showbiz Fix Uncut for this week, brought to you by Sun Bingo. Remember to subscribe to us here on the Sun Showbiz YouTube channel for all the inside TV and celebrity gossip. See you next week.